Madam C.J. Walker, Marjorie Joyner. They're the first people to start it. And then Marcel, he was cold too. Them over there in France. And then them in Switzerland, they was cool too. But Gina, no. Nah, Gina. Nah, Gina, girl. Nah, girl. Nah. Like I'm stopping and starting a lot because most likely I am. But first, let's talk about the structure of the human hair shaft. I think the first thing we should get to is what makes your hair curly. Well, two things. Your genetics determines the size of the follicle, and follicle as well as the amount of sulfur to sulfur bonds inside of the hair shaft is what is going to determine the texture of your hair. What do I mean by that? Somebody of Asian descent is going to have a follicle that is perfectly round, and if your follicle is perfectly brown, that means the hair can come straight through, so your hair is going to be bone straight. And the tighter the follicle gets, the more it squeezes on the hair and the more the hair curls. Number two, within the hair shaft, there are sulfur to sulfur protein linkages within the hair shaft. And the amount of sulfur to sulfur protein bonds that you have linked together in the hair will determine how curly or straight your hair is. The curlier your hair is, the more protein you have located within the hair shaft. It is as simple as that. History. We all know that over time, history always repeats itself. And since the beginning of time, women always want that thing that they do not have. Women with straight hair want curly hair, and women with curly hair want straight hair. And the hair industry is so grand in every race, no matter the color of your skin, because hairstylists and cosmetologists specifically are so creative. When a French hairstylist by the name of Marcel, I'm not about to try to say his last name, created a heating technique for his clients. His clients were predominantly women who had naturally straight hair, because this is where they were at. They all had naturally straight hair. His technique was basically using a certain type of iron, a Marcel iron. At first, the Marcel process, he wasn't necessarily adding chemicals. He was just so good with the Marcel irons that their hair would stay in those curls for a long period of time. So they would say like, oh girl, I'm going to get my hair Marceled. That is the history of the Marcel iron. 1906, a Swiss hairdresser by the name of Charles, this is his last name, not going to try to say that. What Charles did, that Swiss hairdresser Charles, what he did, he understood the body and he understood the hair shaft. So what he did when he put those heated plates on top of those chemically treated pads, he was able to rearrange the bonds that are holding the hair together temporarily. And now, baby, it is time to go all the way back to 1896, girl. 1896. Remember, the first date that I gave you was 1852. That's okay. But listen, we was back there too, because so far this ain't black people, but we got somebody. Marjorie. 1896 to 1944. Okay. Passed away when I was 4 years old. And listen, Marjorie, like, I just believe that like our bodies move on, but our spirits still be here. Marjorie, you was so fine, girl. Like, this is Marjorie. Marjorie Joyner was so freaking amazing because Marjorie Joyner created the first machine of its time. So I already told you about what was going on before, right? Not to mention, Marjorie Joyner was so freaking amazing because, peep this, not only was she an inventor of her, but she was one of the head overseers of over 200 of Madam C.J. Walker's schools. Because remember, Madam C.J. Walker died in 1919, and shortly after that she came on board and was killing stuff over there. And so it was shortly after that that she came up with this invention on her own. Oh, So this is where things get interesting, because over time, as you can see, like I said, women always wanted what they did not have and never had necessarily the type of resources. As we've been evolving in our journey, we didn't have the proper knowledge to give ourselves the proper tools, and every person that came after us did something else. Madam C.J. Walker did the press and comb and all of her other amazing things. She had somebody like Marjorie Joyner under her wing that could take over from where she left off and progress and make things better. It was in the early 1990s that different chemical waves started coming in, because remember, there are 3 different ways that you can change the forms of your hair. You can either get a perm, and a perm is for a woman who has naturally straight hair who wants to give her hair some type of curl. The process of a perm looks like this. You have a client that comes in with bone straight hair, and no matter what she puts in it, it does not curl. So you end up doing what we like to call a brick lay pattern, but depending on who the person is, they do their own pattern with this process. Put their client up under a heat source, and after a certain amount of time, that straight hair has a new formation. There is a process that you follow, but this is permanent waves. She went from straight hair to now naturally curly hair when it is wet. This is permanent waves. Okay, so now you see what a perm looks like. And a relaxer. A relaxer is something that a woman with naturally curly hair, whatever your race may be, you got curls, girl, you want them to go on, you would get a relaxer. And a relaxer goes on like this. Now it is time for the relaxer. The relaxer is the thing that the world talks about the most, but as you will see in this video, it's just like everything else. Your client comes in with the curls that she just don't want right now. Okay, hey girl, this is the master stylist. I love her. Hey girl, hey, if you're watching, girl, hey. And so first thing you're doing is making sure that you protect your client's scalp, which she has done, and then you are applying the relaxer on the hair shaft, avoiding the scalp, and this is going to relax the natural curl pattern, and you are going to take the curl pattern away. The reason that you're taking this curl pattern away is because having curly hair isn't always everything that is cracked up to be. Some people do not want the burden of it, so a lot of people get relaxers. And if the person knows what they're doing, like this beauty here does, you have a head full of healthy hair. This is a relaxer going from curly to straight. I really hope that this makes sense. Girl, you is cute, girl. You cute. This is the relaxer. Let's move along. This is where we talking about the early 1990s. Black women was like, okay, Marjorie already created something for y'all to make it easier for y'all to do permanent waves. Marjorie and everybody else, why don't we do something for us? So then they came up with their own version of it, their own at-home version of it. I'll talk a little bit more about him. So as he broke down all of these barriers and made it so you can do different things like that at home, there was also a new process born. This next process is process number 1 and process number 2 combined. Okay, so what you would do first is break down the natural structure of the hair to make the hair go from curly to straight, and then after you break those bonds down, you then reformat those curls to a new formation depending on what size curl you want. And this is nothing new, and I was born in 1990 and my mother was giving my father Jheri curls at home. This is what a Jheri curl looks like. I don't know, this is just my favorite one, but this is Wave Nouveau. Everybody called it a Jheri curl, but Wave Nouveau is one brand that everybody used to use. So what you will notice first, this is basically a form of relaxer. The main objective in this process is to first take out the natural curl pattern of the hair. So we're getting the hair basically relaxed. The curl is gone. Now that the curl is gone, what she is doing is taking perm rods. Now you will notice that there are always different color perm rods. Each perm rod color is a different size. So mama look like she an OG, and she probably already know what color she want to use to make them pop. I remember when I was in cosmetology school, Wednesday was the day that we did these on a regular basis. So now the next portion, after she gets these perm rods in, now she is going to take the solution, and this is the neutralizer that is going to now lock her hair into this new curl formation. And then she has to go up under a dryer to be processed for a while, and then once she is processed, the solution is rinsed out, and then we take out these rods. You also do a couple of extra steps afterwards, but once you style it, that, my dear, that you just watched is what we call a Jheri curl, but that is just the format that you see. What is happening before your eyes, the first product goes on to break down the natural structures of the hair, the way that the bonds are organized within the hair's cuticle. That first product goes on to break that down, and then the second product goes on to reformat those curls around whatever size rod you put them on. That is the process. So here we go in 2021, and now we have something called Gina Curl. I am not coming down on anyone. I'm not saying anything bad about anyone, but because this is February and it's Black History Month, and in the light of everything going on, I want us to call a spade a spade. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to say don't get Gina Curl, get Gina Curl, but let's call a spade a spade. Now that we know the history of hair in our country, we can now put Gina Curl in its proper perspective. I just showed you what a Jheri curl looks like. This is a video of Gina Curl. So now she has came in with her hair in its complete and total natural state. She goes ahead and puts the Gina Curl product on her hair. This is step one, and you just saw her hair was curly, but by the time they rinse the product off, this is her hair now. And now that her hair is in its new state, still in alpha keratin, this is her hair's new natural state. They wrap it in the perm rods, and then she's going to stay under the dryer until the hair is completely in beta keratin. That is the hair's new setting until it is broken again with the hydrogen bond. They're breaking it again with the hydrogen bond with the second solution, and now they are taking the perm rods out. This is the process for Gina Curl. I really want you to pay attention to what just went on. Now her stylist is styling her hair. This is the Gina Curl process. Okay, so I really need you to take it in, rewind it if you need to. I'm not going to say anything. We're going to observe and we're going to watch this together. This is the modern day Jheri curl. Now that you've seen the process, why don't you look at what she has to say about the process?
That's the big question everybody asks me, right? Because I'm white, obviously, and I specialize in, women of color and their hair. And so let's go way back to when I went to high school, because I went to a technical high school. And I was going in for fashion designing. I had no desire to do hair at all. I went to school and I went through fashion designing. We had to go through all the trades, and I went through hairdressing. And I started doing my friends' hair, and they were black. I was like, wait a minute, and I loved it. I just loved it. I was able to put a curl in its state. I just loved everything about it. So when I came out of hairdressing school, that was a long time ago, 1976. And so the salons were not integrated at all. Okay, so the black shops wouldn't hire me, and the Caucasian salons didn't do black hair. And so I hated it, and I left. I wasn't going to do it anymore. In the meantime, I was going to all the black hair shows. So I ended up meeting this guy who knew a salon owner. And at that salon, there was one black stylist. And he took me under his wing. And then he went and he opened up a salon. and he wasn't going to do chemical services anymore, and that's just how I started, and I just took off from there.
All right, so we know she's legit incredible with black hair, no questions asked. So here
Jheri Curl came around. I did the Jheri Curl, the original Jheri Curl, but I refused to do Wave Nouveau Carefree Curl in any of the other ones because I knew what it was going to do to the hair. So anyways, when I found out about the Japanese straightening, I just flipped. I says, oh boy, this is amazing, but it wasn't recommended on black hair. So my clients were like, you know, big deal. You learned this new technique, but it's not for our hair. And I just said, you know what, don't worry, because I'm going to figure out a way. And I did. I figured out a way how to do their hair with this Japanese straightening chemical, which is Jheri Curl. When the original Jheri Curl came out, the way the application was, you apply the chemical to the perm rod. So you shampoo, you wind the hair up on the perm rod, you apply the chemical to the perm rod, and then it processes, you rinse, you condition, and then you do the oxidation, which is the neutralizer. When the Wave Nouveau and Carefree Curl came out, the way they did it was they rearranged the hair first with the chemical. So they comb through and they work the chemical on the hair. I don't know, I think it was a cream-based formula back then. So it's almost like they relaxed the hair, they opened up the cuticle, okay, and they applied the chemical until the hair was straight. Then they set the perm rods, they set the hair on the perm rods, and they applied more chemical. So, and then they rinsed, conditioned, and put the neutralizer, which is the oxidation liquid, on the perm rod, and that's what forms the curl. Now the problem with those techniques, even the original Jheri Curl, I did the original Jheri Curl for years. So when Jheri and Redding, when it discontinued and Wave Nouveau and Carefree became popular, I wouldn't use those chemicals. I wouldn't use those techniques. I'm not going to say chemical because it's the same chemical. I wouldn't use those techniques. So I continued to use the Jheri Redding technique. The difference between the Gina Curl and Jheri Curl, Wave Nouveau, Carefree Curl, all the other curls is I do not put the chemical on the perm rod. So there's no way of over processing the ends every time you come back to the salon. The product that I use, the chemical that I use is a cream base, and it's heavy. So it doesn't drip onto the ends when you come in for your retouch. I can't put the chemical on the scalp. I can only put it on the hair. And if you come back for your retouch, you're going to have Gina Curl on the ends, the mid shaft down to the ends, and then you're gonna come in, and I'm only going to work the chemical on the regrowth. So I don't over process the ends every time the client comes back. That's the best thing about it.
On the Japanese straightening type. Now, this is the Japanese straightening system. Now, for the Japanese hair straightening system, it is just like a relaxer, and it is just like step one in the Wave Nouveau system. At the end of the day, the chemical compound does exactly the same thing. It opens the cuticle, so that way the product can begin to rearrange and move around the bonds that are holding the hair together, which will in return take your hair from curly to straight. But see, with the Japanese hair straightening system, what happens is you have a little dormant phase where the hair is lying in between that space of alpha keratin and beta keratin. Now she is blow drying the hair after she has already opened the cuticle with the Japanese straightening system's product. Now she's telling the hair like, hey, okay, I'm about to neutralize you and I want you to stay straight. Now her hair has been completely neutralized, and this is her hair wet. At this point, if this was, Gina Curl, they would be putting the perm rods on. Gina Curl is not making your hair grow, it's letting you see damage like this. You guys, study the science of your hair, please. Japanese straightening is good, but period, point blank, regardless of what type of box you try to put it in and what type of packaging you try to give it, this is a form of bond manipulation. Whether you are a person with curly hair, taking your hair from curly to straight with the relaxer, or a person with the naturally straight hair, taking your hair from straight to curly with the perm, or a person with naturally curly hair taking their hair from curly to a whole nother formation. Now, this is the issue with that. Everyone is so gung-ho about black women doing relaxers, but now here in 2021, we are rewinding all the way back in time. Instead of going forward, we're going back in time, and black women are getting modern day Jheri curls. This is a modern day Jheri curl, no matter how you try to look at it. People before us fought a very long way to get the things that they have, and for us to be constantly going backwards and then arguing with the people that are still trying to keep the people who came before us legacies living is kind of crazy. Marjorie Joyner was never given credit or one penny, one dime for her creation, but it was used across the globe in multiple hair salons, not just for black hair but for white hair as well. And I'm sorry, in 2021 I cannot sleep at night or lay comfortably knowing that our generation is gonna go backwards, not even giving homage to the people that came before them. I have a daughter, and my daughter is almost 10 years old, and soon my daughter will be an adult being raised in this world, and I need her to know about the things that were done before she got here, and about the men and women in this world who paved the way for her to do the things that she does. Bottom line, Gina Curl is a modern day version of the Jheri curl. Instead of them using the product formulation of a relaxer to change the texture of a woman's hair, she is using the Japanese straightening system, which is also a system that breaks down the bonds in the hair. This is something that you will have to constantly do for the rest of your life. Please know that. And I also want you to understand that I am not telling you what to do or what not to do. What I am simply telling you to do is do your research, know and respect who came first and who pioneered what before we jump on bandwagons, okay? And put people's respect on their name. You can use whatever you want to use, but just know if I have some bundles in my head, I tell you that they Brazilian bundles, and I'm not trying to call it Zillion. I'm not trying to call it Zillion. Madam CJ Walker, Marjorie Joyner, they're the first people to start it. And then Marcel, he was cold too. Them over there in France, and then them in Switzerland, they was cool too. But Gina, no. Nah, Gina. Nah, Gina girl. Nah, girl. Nah. Nah, girl. Hairstylists, we tell y'all, like, you guys, this is just a modern day Jheri curl. It's the same thing, this reason, but y'all want to do it again. Okay, that's fine. I think what you guys are forgetting is look at the prices. Look at how much Gina Curl costs. It's so freaking crazy to me that in 2021, black women between these ages are getting Jheri curls again, thinking that it's something brand new, paying this much money for it, but then nickel and diamond a black hairstylist that tell them that they want to charge them $85 for a silk press. This is why. We are nickeling and diming hairstylists for $85 silk presses in my comments, but black women are full of this white women's page, and they are all paying $700 to $1,500 for something that are like $50, $60, if even that. Something that you can do at home yourself right now. It is the most insane thing, but history repeats itself, and what do I know? I just do hair, and I guess I'll just have to wait for another, like 7 to 8 years for everyone to catch on, and then, you know, we'll be in the spot that we were with Deva Cuts, where we are with Deva Curl right now. So love you guys so much. Hope this video did a little something for the spirit. See you next time.